Hey everybody, and welcome back to part 5 of my series on making a magic card template in Photoshop. In this video I'll be making the main text box of the card and also adding functionality that allows the text box to get taller or shorter depending on how long the actual rules text of the card is. The first thing I'm going to do here is draw in this big black box for the text box, and I'm going to make it very tall so that it can slide up and down and accommodate very long text boxes, and I'm never going to have an issue with it not being able to extend high enough. Then I go in and add the actual text in white, making sure that the line spacing, the font, the size of the font, everything like that is all set up correctly. And then I add a black stroke of like 2 or 3 pixels to it just to add a little bit of contrast so it stands out against whatever art is behind it. Now I'm going to modify the shapes of some elements that I made previously. The concept for this is that I want it to actually be borderless at the top, and at the bottom the frame is going to like kind of curve in. So you'll see me using the circle selection tool to make that initial curved shape. And it looks like how I actually chose to do this is I'm drawing in red the reverse of the shape that I'm going to, basically I'm drawing the shape that I want to cut out of everything else. So I'm going to make this a layer mask. So I'm just drawing the curved shape. So basically everything that's in red now is going to get cut out of the frame. I'm just doing it this way so that I have a nice shape separate that I can use as a layer mask. So I went ahead and selected the red layer and then Control-Shift-I to select inverse, and I added that little bit of curve to the black layer. So you see the black text box now curves up towards the edge. Now you see me cut the same curve out of the green layer that goes around the edge. So at this point I'm not yet worrying about making sure that it can modulate and move up and down to size. I'm just getting it to the correct shape with the curve on the edge by using layer masks, using the big red selection layer that I made previously. So here's where it gets slightly complicated with layer masks and stuff. So to have the text box be able to get taller and shorter, in this specific frame, I'm going to need to move 3 elements to get it to go up and down. I need to move the semi-transparent black text box that we made at the start of this video. I'm going to need to move the green line, make sure that can get taller and shorter. And I also am going to need to move the black border on the edge. Once I cut that, it's going to need to also get taller and shorter. Now, the actual way we're going to do that is whenever you need to make it taller or shorter, you're going to need to, there's going to be 3 layers that you're going to need to select by holding Control and just clicking on the 3 layers, and then you'll drag them up and down. Now, the confusing thing about this is that you can't, you can grab multiple layers and move them all at once, but you can't grab multiple masks and move them. So you can select a mask and move it around as much as you want as long as you unlink the mask from the layer, but you can't grab multiple masks and move them all together. You can only grab multiple layers and move them all together. So what this means is when I'm making a shape that can change sizes, it can get taller or shorter by using a layer mask in combination with just a shape drawn on a normal layer. The stationary part, the part that never moves, needs to be the layer mask. And the part that needs to move needs to be the actual layer. So the way that I have it set up for this green part right now, if you look at the layer, the one that is called layer 6 copy 3, the border, the thing that goes all the way around, the actual shape of the thing is on the actual layer, and then the layer mask is the curved shape at the bottom that we want to drag up and down. So the way it's set up right now is the mask, when I need to make the text box taller or shorter, the mask needs to move and not the actual layer itself. So to fix this and make it so we can actually modulate it correctly, all I have to do is literally reverse them. So the thing that is the layer mask right now needs to be the shape that's on the actual layer. And the shape that's on the actual layer needs to be converted to a layer mask. So you see me on the layer that's called layer 11. Now I've literally just reversed it. So now the layer mask is the layer, and the layer is the layer mask. So now I'm going to click the little chain link icon to unlink the layer mask, which basically allows me to move the layer without it also moving the layer mask. So the layer mask stays stationary while I'm moving the layer all over the place. And now I can drag the layer up and down, and it's adjusting my shape correctly. So as for the black text box layer, since there's not actually any weird complicated stuff on the bottom, and it's just a simple shape that's underneath all the other layers, it actually doesn't need any layer masks at all. So for that part, to make it taller or shorter, literally you just grab the layer and drag it up and down. So now you'll see me grab both layers that I just made, and now I can drag them together like I was talking about, and they both get taller or shorter together. So now I just need to add the same functionality to this black border part. So you'll see, and this one's not exactly on the same curve, it's a little farther down so that the green line goes up and around it, which you'll see in a sec. So now I put the layer mask on it, and that's what it's supposed to look like. So now I actually have the exact same problem that I had with the green line on the black border. So it's set up incorrectly where to make this taller or shorter, I'm going to have to actually move the layer mask like it was on the green one. So I have to do the exact same thing where I just reverse them. So I make what is the layer mask, make that what's on the layer, and what's on the layer, put that as the layer mask. So basically I just control click on the layer mask. Now I have the shape of the layer mask selected, and then I make a new layer, fill that all in with black. So now what was the layer mask is now a shape on a layer, and then I control click the layer and then set that as the layer mask for the new layer. So now the one called layer 13 is just the reverse of the one that was called border. And now I just have to extend the bottom so that it's not too short, and now it functions again just in reverse. So now I can select the layer and drag it up and down to modulate it instead of selecting the layer mask. So now, because I've done it this way, I can select that layer that I just made, select the green layer that I made earlier, and select the black layer. And now when I drag them up and down together, they all modulate correctly. And again, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't reversed the things like I talked about, because you can't select and move multiple layer masks together. You can only select and move multiple layers together. So this is the only way that it'll work like this. Now, since the geometry of this frame is actually fairly simple, I could have, on this specific template, I could have done this same effect without using layer masks by just having, like, say for the green, I would just have a layer that represents the stationary shapes, like the bar that goes across the bottom, and then have another layer for the lines on the side, and that would just be able to move up and down, and it would work fine that way. And then the black border, you could do exactly the same thing, having a layer that does the stationary stuff at the bottom, and then one layer that has the borders on the sides that can move up and down. And it would work correctly on this specific template, which has a fairly simple layout, but the layer mask method that I've shown you here will work better on templates with more complicated layouts, and you won't be able to do it simply with just layers that can just slide up and down without utilizing some layer masks as well. I'll be posting another video in another couple of days showing modifying a template to have a modular text box like this. But in that one, the card type box also needs to move up and down with it, because the card type box on that one is above the text box, so it needs to move as the text box stretches as well. So it's going to be more complicated and is definitely going to need to utilize the layer masks method that I've shown you here. So that's how I get the text boxes to modulate size on my templates. There'll be another video talking more about this. So if you have any questions, I'll be replying to all the comments. And the next video in the series is going to be adding some finishing touch details, foil stamp at the bottom, this other detail that I'm going to add, legendary headers, that kind of stuff. Also, let me know if you like the expanded layer view on the side. I think I might just do that for all of the Photoshop videos from now on because it's just way easier to see that way. Anyway, more videos coming soon. If you're interested in tabletop game design, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe, stick around. I've got a lot of interesting stuff coming, revealing my my own custom game that I'm working on from scratch. So lots of exciting stuff coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.